What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to my public YouTube channel. We have a very unique video that we are going to be going into together. This is something that is going to be largely associated with my own personal experience working with some of the darkest aspects of occultism, specifically psychic warfare and cursing. I'm going to be sharing some of my own scary stories of how I've cursed people, like actual people in my life, and some of the results that I've noticed from these curses. Now, what I'm also going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be giving you a little bit of an education also on the nature of cursing and where it's kind of led me to this point now with where I am in the present moment. So I'm going to be sharing these real life stories, real accounts of me doing this with other people, and then I'm going to be packaging all of it up, tying it off with a bow to leave you with some healthy, grounded understanding. If this is something that you are interested in, then I highly recommend you stay tuned, and I will see you on the other side. Okay, so we are here. So we are talking about the occult. We're talking about black magic. We're talking about psychic warfare and cursing. First thing that I want to say about this is I am very good at psychic warfare. I don't know exactly what it is about it that makes me so good at it. Probably because I've been through a lot of abuse in my past in different forms. But that makes a lot of sense, actually. I've been through not only just abuse, but I've been through kind of like SRA type of abuse, satanic ritual abuse. So I understand how to utilize the psychic realm in a way that can actually cause a lot of damage in someone's life. Now, does that mean I have the ability to bypass different cosmic laws like karma and things of that nature? Absolutely not. No, this is something that we're all connected to. But I have literally many real life experiences and examples of using psychic warfare on specific people that I have actually been around. So I have been able to almost observe like a scientist how this energy has affected them through me sending it to them, and then also how it affects them later down the road in their life and things of that nature. So this is a little bit about what I'm going to be sharing. Once again, real life scary stories of how I've used some really dark black magic on other people because I felt like at those times these people were bad. I felt like they were my enemies. I felt like it was just something I needed to do to protect myself. All right, so the first place that we're going to start is the first time that I used psychic warfare. Literally, it was like the first time I actually did black magic. This was back in 2018, and I was going to school for personal training at the time in Orlando, Florida, and there was a couple people that were in my classroom that were really annoying, and one of the people sat right next to me, and he was just always giving me a hard time. Like the way that he was always acting, it just, for some reason, it triggered something in me so deeply. I was just like, dude, chill out. Like, take a chill pill and calm down. So I remember what ended up happening. It kind of got to a point where I felt like he was purposely trying to hurt me or purposely trying to trigger me. Now, in reality, is that actually the case? No, I think it was rooted in my trauma and he was just showing me a reflection of it. But at the time, I didn't know that. So I went home and this is at a point in my life when I was just starting to really get into the occult, specifically the darker aspects of it. So I went home and I looked up a form of curse that I could do on the person that literally sat next to me. So what I did is I kind of put together this little project from something that I was learning online on how to curse this person. I don't even remember exactly how I did it, but it basically revolved around having a piece of paper, writing the person's name out several times, crossing it out, getting some like charcoal, and I think it was like charcoal and something else. I forget what it was. And then sprinkling it on this piece of paper, folding it up in a certain way, and then taking like a red or like a black candle. I think it was a red candle, taking a red candle and having the red wax just burn on the paper to seal it up as it was folded in a certain type of way. I went through that whole ritual. Like, I actually did it, and as I was doing it, I was also channeling a lot of my anger towards this person, because they were just, the way that they were acting, you know, as they were sitting next to me in class, it was just so annoying. And you could tell, it was like I was clearly annoyed, and this person was kind of egging it on. So long story short, I did this ritual, or this curse, and then literally, this is the craziest thing. The next morning, I'm not even kidding you, the next morning, I go onto my Instagram, and that person that I cursed followed me on Instagram. So we had already been going to school together for a long time, a couple months, and it was right after I did the curse, they followed me on Instagram. So I saw their profile picture. I'm like, that is so symbolic, or that's very correspondent. Now, I'm like, okay, so something's going on here. Clearly, they must have felt some sort of energy connected to me. That's why they followed me on Instagram. So then I actually go to school, because remember, I sit next to this person. So I have a real life example to see, how does this energy actually manifest? Well, guess what? That day in class, it just so happened to be they were quiet. They didn't say anything. They weren't being annoying. They actually were used to kind of having a little tribe. It was like 4 people. They would always hang out together. They'd be really obnoxious a lot of the times. He was like disregarded from the tribe that day. So they like didn't really want him around. He was kind of all by himself. He was in a very different energy, where you could tell he was dealing with some stuff underneath the surface. He was actually having to process his shadow in different aspects of trauma. And I saw that, and I noticed the correspondence of doing the curse. And then the next day, he was so out of character. It was like he was no longer wearing the mask that he was so used to wearing, but he was more having to be with himself. And I saw that, and I was like, that is valuable. That is powerful, considering the fact that I just did this little psychic thing, and this person's behavior has completely changed. So that was the first time I realized this stuff is no joke. Now, continuing on with school, his behavior towards me changed from that day. So he actually, from that day forward, the way he interacted with me was very different. So it was like he was no longer actively being annoying to me, but he did start to kind of shift slowly back into his mask, or his obnoxious behavior. But the way he treated me was different, almost as if in his unconscious, he intuitively knew that I was the person that kind of initiated that shadow work for him. So that was something that was interesting. That ended up happening another time during schooling. There was another person that was just so like annoying with me, and just like kept flocking towards me to try to like ask me all these questions that they really didn't care about. And it felt like they were draining my energy. I'm like, dude, chill out. I don't really want to talk to you right now. You're asking me questions that you don't even care about. And once again, it was a reflection of my trauma that I did not know at the time, but that's what was happening. So I did another form of psychic warfare. This time I used invocation of certain demonic types of energies that had a vampiric nature to them. And what I did is I sent these energies to basically afflict him, to drain his energy, so that he wouldn't be able to do it to me. That's what my approach was. So I end up going to school that next day. Once again, his behavior is completely different. It's completely out of character. So he's no longer flocking around me, asking me all these things that he doesn't even care about. Like literally, like it's like the way he would talk to me was just to take energy. That's how I felt. But he was very different that day. He was calmer. He was quieter. He was more reserved. He was having to face his shadow because I had initiated it onto him using the curse. So that was another reality check. And then the way that he behaved with me was very different from that point forward. It was like he knew that crossing my boundary in that way led to this degree of shadow work. So he didn't do the same thing in the same way anymore, which was cool. So for me, this started to kind of develop a sense of safety where I'm like, you know what? I have an ability to literally protect myself where I don't have to always do it physically. Like I don't have to always assert myself or fight people because I had a lot of trauma. So I was kind of in an energy where I thought that was the only way I could protect myself was if I verbally argue with someone or if I have to physically defend myself. So it was a relief knowing that I could actually do these things in a psychic way and get that energy through my system and not have to resort to physically getting into altercations or arguments that were unnecessary. Now, obviously, you know, being able to assert yourself and have boundaries and honor who you are and let people know like, hey, you're crossing a boundary with me, that's the most healthy approach. That's the most appropriate, mature approach. Once again, at this time in my process, I wasn't fully aware of that. I was using that energy in the psychic realm. My journey progresses. I end up getting a job at Equinox. I end up manifesting a manager that was reflecting a lot of my dad back to me, who I had been through some pretty intense abuse with in the past, narcissistic types of abuse. This guy was very jealous with me from the very start. So it was just a weird resonance that me and him somehow attracted each other into each other's lives. But the first words that he said to me is, and he was a manager for me as a personal trainer, he goes, "You're not going to be better than me." And he didn't say it in a playful way. It was like, "You're not going to be better than me. Like, I'll make sure of it, but I'm still going to help you out." So that set the tone. Long story short, he was a terrible manager. He was very selfish in many regards, and he was not truly wanting me to succeed in the way that I was trying to succeed. Now, also looking back at myself at that time, I was not truly connected to my core either. So I was operating from a false self. So if I look at the bigger picture of everything, he did me a favor because he was challenging my inauthentic self. And I'm very thankful for him till this day. But at the time, that's not what it looked like. It looked like, dude, you're literally giving me a hard time for no reason. You're acting very adversarial in nature. Like, chill out. Let me just do what I need to do. Long story short, I was working as hard as I could. There was times where I was showing up to the gym really early, like at 5 a.m. to work with clients and stuff. And I knew that I had a paycheck that was coming in that was supposed to be a pretty big paycheck. And then when I got it, I noticed it was much smaller than what it should have been. And then I realized that my manager, this guy, he was the one responsible for putting in the hours on the paycheck or doing the payroll in that type of way. And what he did is he undercut my hours on the payroll because he was trying to look better for his payroll numbers. And he also had a little bit of a resentment towards me for some reason. So I recognized that, and I knew, I could tell like in my bones, that's what took place. Like I could tell. So I went home and I was like, all right, so you want to take money out of my paycheck that I'm working hard for? Fine. You're not going to do it without experiencing some form of shadow work. You're not going to do it without experiencing the karma from what you're doing to me. So what I did is I did a huge ritual when I got home. I invoked a bunch of dark entities and I sent them to him through invocation, through ritual, to basically drain his energy and initiate that karma back onto him. And I was very angry and I was frustrated. So I channeled that into this whole ritual. Well, funny enough, the next day later, there is someone that I'm close with at the gym. He comes to me. He goes, "Hey, did you hear what happened to Elmer?" That was the guy's name. I'm like, "No, tell me about what happened." And meanwhile, my ear is all perked up because I'm like, something happened. Okay, let's see. And then he goes, "Yeah, well, Elmer's ex-wife literally just stole 30,000 grand from his bank account. And now he's having to go to court and it's becoming this whole big deal." That was right after I just did this ritual, right after Elmer was taking money out of my paycheck. So that was another confirmation to me that this ritualistic practice, utilizing black magic as a form of psychic warfare, it's really powerful. It really does initiate shadow work for people. It really does initiate karma to come back to people in a pretty significant way. But keep in mind, during that time too, I was in resonance for those things to happen. So this is not, oh, I'm a victim here. These people are taking advantage of me. I now use psychic warfare to protect myself. I was a part of it. 50%. It was my state that was not completely authentic to myself that was putting me in resonance for that to even happen. So I don't want you as the listener to start grabbing on to this idea of black magic and cursing people and running with it in a way that's not healthy, because you're going to end up paying the price for it. Trust me. All right. I mean, I got stories. Okay. Then next thing happens. Okay. I end up getting let go from that job. I end up getting another job. Okay. There's this girl that I manifest at this job where I was a chef and she was an assistant chef, and she was literally one of the most adversarial people I have ever worked with in my entire life. I mean, it was intense. I only lasted at that job for about a month. She angered me so much that I went and I did this huge ritual on South Beach, Miami, to just direct this primal rage and hatred that I had for this person that I was working with. And sure enough, she ended up losing her job. So it took about a week and a half after I did that ritual, and then she got fired from the job. And that was like the big thing that was causing a discord between me and her, was the fact that she wanted to be basically the head chef, but I was the head chef at that time. And it was not like a complex restaurant. It wasn't like really, you didn't have to be a rocket science to know how to cook the food there. But I was literally like the head chef basically. And I was the one communicating with all the other chefs so that we could get our food out at the right time and stuff. And then when she came in, it was like she was jealous and she wanted that position. So she would always fight against me rather than working with me and the rest of our team in cooperation. She was always fighting against and wanted to do things her own way. So, long story short, I did the psychic warfare, and then about a week and a half later, she literally got fired from that job. I left that job by choice. I ended up putting in my 2 weeks and I was ready to go. So when I heard that she got fired, that was a confirmation once again that energy that I sent was very significant in that way. Oh, and the way that she got fired was intense too. Like the head chef there, like the guy who runs the restaurant, he like lashed out onto her and said, "Get the fuck out. Like, you're done." And that's how it ended for her. So that's definitely an aspect of things. Then I ended up getting another job. This was also on the beach as well. And I had an experience with, other people that I was working with. They weren't employees. They were like work associates, you could say. And this one guy was like really untrustworthy. He was really known for being dishonest, and he asked to borrow one of my keys so that I could open up one of my the huts that I was working in. And I knew about his background, but I still gave him the benefit of the doubt, and I gave him my key and I said, "Here, yeah, use my key. Just make sure you give it back to me when you're done." And I trusted him, and he used my key to open something up that he needed. And then when he came to return my key, he switched out my key, which was a really valuable one that all the people were wanting to have. He switched it out for a different one, trying to trick me so that I wouldn't notice. And obviously I was eventually going to find out because I needed to unlock my stuff and I didn't have the key to do it. So he switched it out. He lied to me. He was being deceptive. And I was like, you know what? All right, fine. That's how you want to be. I'm going to mess you up. I'm going to do some psychic warfare. So that's exactly what I did. So I went home. I did a ritual. I summoned a bunch of dark energy, and then I channeled it to this guy. And then literally that next day later, I'm observing him at his hut, because I have my hut, he has his hut over there. He basically manages his own team. I manage my team. And I'm watching him. As I'm literally looking at him, watching him, all of his papers go flying. All his paperwork flies. Like some big gust of wind just took all of his paperwork, and it just started flying through the air, and he had to go grab all of it and catch all of it. And you could just tell he was not having a good day. Like things were not really working out for him. And then it eventually did get to a point where he ended up getting let go. So he ended up losing his job as well. All right, so this is some examples. There was another time, this was in 2020. I was in the beginning stages of creating my YouTube channel at this time. Not creating my YouTube channel, being more consistent with it. And there was someone that commented on one of my YouTube videos at that time, and they said something that was really disrespectful to me. And the way that I responded was just meeting them where they were at. So I responded in a way that was also like, you know, I don't need you here, like you can leave kind of energy. And then I guess this other person who at the time was a content creator in the occult field, which I didn't really know about too well, apparently he knew the person that sent that comment to me or whatever it was. And then he ended up commenting on my channel, basically trying to stand up for that person. And I responded to him in a disrespectful way because he was being disrespectful to me again. And I was saying, I'm like, hey, like, one, you don't need to get involved with this because this is not between me and you. Like the person that you're trying to stand up for, they came to my channel and disrespected me. So when you come to my channel and you disrespect me, you have to be willing to take disrespect as well, because this is my platform. This is my channel. This is how I run things here. So don't try to be a big guy and say, hey, I'm protecting this person that follows me after they started disrespect and then they received it back from me. So this guy was obviously clearly operating in a codependent people pleaser type of energy. And he started saying some pretty deep things about like, hey, yeah, like I'm going to curse you kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Wonderful. I'm going to get started too then. So then I went and I set up my ritual space. This is at the time when I was living in the warehouse. And I mean, when I tell you I do psychic warfare and I go into it and I can do it like that, I mean it. So I went into it. I did a huge ritual. I mean, it became this huge ordeal. Like I was really angry. For some reason, I was so triggered by this guy. Obviously, once again at this time, it's my trauma. It's all reflecting back to me. So is this guy really my enemy? Is he really a bad guy? No, it's just he's reflecting things to me that I needed to face within myself. But I went into the ritual infuriated, considering the fact that he even thought he could, you know, stand up to me or thought that he could disrespect me on my platform after what had happened and everything. I didn't feel like that was right. So I did this ritual. It was very profound. Like literally right after I did it, he suddenly stopped posting. And remember, he did have a YouTube channel at the time. He suddenly stopped posting. And the next thing you know, literally a couple days later, it surfaces that he had actually sexually assaulted someone. And that was partially why he stopped posting. And then from that point forward, he hasn't posted since. His channel's been dry. His channel's been dead. Basically, it's gone. So whatever it is that I did in that psychic warfare, it somehow surfaced this abuse, this sexual abuse that he was involved with that destroyed his, I guess, his character and his reputation that was attached to that character. And he didn't have it in him to continue doing what he was doing because he was probably so much in a people-pleasing, codependent energy. And that's all he relied on was creating an illusion for his audience. And then as soon as he had to be himself, he didn't last. So that was an example. Okay. What else are some examples? I mean, there's so many. There really is so many. I've used psychic warfare on many different occasions. I have seen people lose their life using psychic warfare. I've been involved in that before, where I've done certain types of psychic warfare on groups of people, and I have seen groups of people actually lose their life, like at a collective level, which is obviously a really intense thing to recognize when that type of energetic work you're doing actually causes multiple people to physically lose their lives. That's when it gets into a whole nother level of working with this energy that you really want to be aware of, because all of these things do have karmic responses. There was a group called, or I don't even need to mention their name, but there was a group on YouTube that had about 20,000 subscribers at the time. I want to say about 4,000. And at the time I was kind of learning from their content. There was some stuff I thought was interesting, and I was taking it in as valuable information. But then there came a point where I was sharing some stuff that I was learning from their channel, and I was giving them shout outs and everything. I was crediting them for what they were teaching. But I guess someone from their community must have came to my community and said something about Jeremiah's like stealing your content, etc. And meanwhile, I'm over here, I'm like, hey, I would love to get to know you guys and kind of talk to you and potentially do some form of a partnership here. I wasn't really sure like what kind of people they were, so I wanted to get to know them a little bit deeper. But then they took it as face value, and they saw me as this like bad guy or this evil person, and then they started demonizing me and reframing me to be someone that I'm not. There was a lot of narcissistic qualities that this group of people were displaying, and then that's when I really got to see who they actually were, and I was like, oh, that's actually a big turnoff. I don't really want anything to do with that group anymore, and I'm kind of glad that this happened. But long story short, they had a YouTube channel of a lot of subscribers at the time, and they were doing psychic warfare. They were occultists themselves, and they started doing psychic warfare on me for literally over a year, publicly on YouTube, multiple times a week. Like, that's how attached they were to me when they had never met me before. It was the wildest thing to see. And they had a whole community of people that were in on it, and they're like, yeah, they're like egging them on and everything. So, obviously that was frustrating. It's not fun to see a group of YouTubers that have 20,000 subscribers and a whole community reframing you to be something that you're not, and promoting it to their audience as if it's true, and then using psychic warfare literally on you in the videos, saying that they're going to hurt you and hurt, like literally like using words like kill and stuff. And I'm like, okay, like that's a little bit intense, and that shows the nature of how delusioned these people are and how much trauma they must have. Me knowing me, it's like that stuff is going to have to come full circle at some point. So I went into my own rituals with everything. I did some crazy psychic warfare rituals. I did about 3 rituals on this group of people. I even posted them to my Patreon, and I used some of the psychic warfare that I teach on Patreon that was demonstrated, me using it against these groups of people at the time. And that is still actually on my Patreon to this day. But the way that I generally teach it on the Patreon is, this is a form of psychic warfare that you can use. You don't have to use it on the people that I've used it on. If you want to use it as a target, you can. But this is the general practice. But long story short, I did these rituals. I invoked some really dark energies once again. I mean, it's to the point where this energy comes in my body and something else starts speaking through me. And it sounds wild. All of it is on my Patreon. Okay. And then shortly, these people did what they were doing for about a little bit over a year, but slowly throughout the journey of them coming after me, and after I initiated that form of curse, they were getting less and less and less attention, and they were becoming less and less and less influential, to the point where they got completely removed off of YouTube. All of the videos that they spent a lot of time and energy creating and then releasing to the public through YouTube got removed. The guy ended up creating multiple websites about me, which was really psychopathic. And like, he literally created websites with my name in it that were like designed to sell things to people, to like paint me out to be this crazy person that I'm actually not. Like they were literally making things up about me, and I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Like I'm actually like a villain to you guys. But long story short, he created all these different websites and was selling products to like try to hurt me or whatever, and had all these videos on YouTube about me, but also about other things, and they all got removed from YouTube. So everything got removed. Then they moved over to a different platform, and then they just fizzled out. So no one really started engaging with it anymore, because they saw that, I guess, you know, him operating in that way was a clear, I triggered something in regards to his narcissistic injury, and it caused him to kind of react in a certain way that was clear that this person has mental illness. And it happened for such a prolonged period of time that I think people started to realize, I don't know if I want to be associated with someone like that, because this is kind of feeling like I'm in a narcissistic cult here. And that's kind of what they were forming. But long story short, I did the psychic warfare. I processed the trauma components of it and let it go. And they basically lost everything for the most part. Like they don't have any of the websites out anymore. They don't have the content out anymore. And that is simply what that is. All right. So lots of these different stories. I have more to share, but I think right now, this is generally what's probably most important to look at. Now, let's take a look at this. With all of this that I just explained, once again, the common theme that you should get from this is that psychic warfare and cursing people is not the answer to your questions. It's not going to solve your problems. It's not going to change your life completely. What it can do is it can offer as some form of a healthy emotional expression in creating a sense of safety, because you know that if you need to, you can use it. But at the end of the day, remember, you do not have enemies, and you do not have people that are meant to be villains in your life that you're supposed to curse to be able to live the best life that you can. All of that is rooted in trauma, and it's putting you in resonance with people that might be acting catalytic to you. So when you find a lot of resistance going on in your life, and it's coming through certain types of people, like certain types of archetypes of people, cursing them is not the answer to your problems. It's about addressing what's inside of your nervous system at a trauma level to see what's putting you in resonance with them in the first place. That's how you're truly going to heal and resolve these things for good. So no matter how much I was using psychic warfare and cursing, at the end of the day, if you noticed a common theme, there was cycles with it. I kept manifesting quote unquote enemies. I kept manifesting people that I always felt like I had to use it on. And at a certain point, you're never going to really break out of that cycle until you let go and say, you know what, I'm going to face what's inside of myself now that's putting me in resonance with these types of people. And that's what I did back with that group that I mentioned earlier. And since then, I have not used psychic warfare because I don't need to. I'm the embodiment of the source consciousness, which means I am a reflection of everything. So everything shows me a reflection of myself. I show other things a reflection of, back to itself. We're all connected, and we're all meant to like understand this principle of connection. And ultimately, we're all here to help each other. We're all here to offer each other some form of guidance or some form of support. So if someone's hurting me, they're not actually hurting me, they're hurting themselves. And the more I attach to that and say, now I need to hurt you, I'm not actually hurting you, I'm hurting myself. So whenever you use psychic warfare, you're initiating a form of karma. You're initiating this destructive kind of death cycle energy into a person's life that can lead to shadow work, which can be valuable, but it's also going to come back to you, which means you're going to have to end up doing that same shadow work yourself, and you're going to have to go through that death cycle yourself. So as long as you understand that and you have that healthier approach, then you can make an educated decision for what it is that you feel like is in your best interest. It's not that using psychic warfare is a bad thing or an evil thing, but it's also not that it's a good thing and it's going to solve all your problems either. It's a choice that you get to make based on where you are. And hopefully with what I shared here, this can kind of give you that full understanding. All right. So with that being said, this was the stories that I really wanted to share with you. I think that a lot of people are interested in hearing these types of things because it's not too common you come across people that do this type of stuff and can actually explain it in a way that's understandable. All right. So with that being said, we're going to wrap it up here. If you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button. Drop down into the comment section and let me know what your thoughts are on this. Let me know what your experience is with psychic warfare. I would love to hear it. Okay, whether you were a recipient of it or whether you were doing it yourself. Make sure you're getting notified whenever I'm posting, because at this point I'm posting every single day and you definitely want to take advantage of that. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. By subscribing, you're further energetically connecting to everything it is that I do. And then go ahead and copy and paste this link and send it to someone or your social media platforms where you feel like people will gain value from this content in any way. I'm going to take your awareness now to the first link in the YouTube description. It's one of the most important links right there. This is my Patreon. On my Patreon, I have exclusive content, including an entire magic training course, which is like going to college for being an occultist. It's going to give you real practical demonstrations, but also education on everything you possibly need to know. All right. All of these different well-organized collection sections covering shadow work and trauma, how to create a healthy foundation, how to read the tarot, how to understand astrology and read your natal birth chart. All of these different things that are so valuable are over on my Patreon. So take advantage of it. Tier 3 and 4 gives you access to the Universe B ritual service that is performed on the 29th of every month. It's the only ritual that I perform on my collective consciousness. It's an energetic transfer from me to you to support you through some of the deepest portions of integrating your unconscious mind, working with some of those repressed emotions, sensations, and memories so that you can start merging with your shadow and your shadow can start working with you in cooperation rather than resisting you as some form of an adversary. If you're interested in any of this, definitely consider it. There are about 300 members that are actively taking place in the ritual service itself, and there's a bunch of people that are taking advantage of all the other exclusive content. So look into it. First link below. Second link is where you can book a one-on-one call with me, or you can jump right into mentorships. I'm very passionate about this. Okay, this is one of the most deep ways to personally work with me. And currently I do work with people from all over the world and I have a full schedule, but I can absolutely find a way to fit you in if you decide to work with me. All right. Now, also in the same second link, you can book a tarot card reading with Alexia. She's a very gifted tarot card reader that can help you understand what you're currently going through and then what to expect as you shift into the near future within your internal process and then external things as well. So if you want to book a tarot card reading, second link with Alexia. Third link is called the LUCIFERS Foundation course. This is going to give you a step-by-step manual to build a healthy yet powerful relationship with the energy known as Lucifer. Tons of people have purchased the course, tons of positive feedback that we have received from it. If you're interested, that's at the third link. The fourth link is going to be the YouTube memberships. This is where you can become a part of the Universal Mastery family. And I would absolutely love and feel honored to have you a part of this family, because at the end of the day, that's literally what it is. We are like a family of like-minded individuals that are here to support each other through this deeper process of working with the shadow, working with the unconscious, healing trauma, and also uncovering what it is that we're truly capable of doing here on this planet. All right, so fourth link below for that. I would love to have you there. Fifth link is going to be my book recommendations for you. All of the different books that I have created with the Cosmic Observer on YouTube, we partner together. This is very valuable information that gives you the fundamental basics on everything occult that you can use as tools for the rest of your spiritual journey. Okay, the fifth link is going to give you access to the ebook bundle that you can purchase and have immediately, or you can start purchasing your physical copies directly from Amazon. All right, so with that being said, we're going to wrap it up here. I appreciate all of you very, very, very much. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of the day or night wherever you are. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.